It's a beautiful bacon day, Cookie Crusaders. Today we're going to be covering the Summoner T-Knight team. This one's a very unique one, very interesting one. So what made me come up with this was that the healing factor of the Summoner team is not always strong enough, in the sense that there's a lot of burst damage, there's a lot of critical damage, a lot of teams hitting you very quickly. And so in most cases, you're not able to handle that, and because of that, the team just crumples, which is understandable. There's counters to every team, but I was trying to think of the most well-rounded team that could blend each other's skills together and also work the best together. So the reason I came up with this team is that Cotton, Pumpkin Pie, Crunchy Chip Cookie, and Snow King all summon creatures. So you're going to get an extra 7 bodies on the field between the 3 sheep, the 2 wolves, the 1 pom-pom, and the 1 Snow King. So you're going to have a whole bunch of bodies on the field attacking the front line, regardless if it's a 4-quad, if it's a single tank, you're going to be pushing that line a lot. In addition, the pin cushion is going to be helping 4 of your cookies here, because 4 of those creature summons are all going to be dealing extra attack. So it's not as powerful as the scroll, but it's like having 2 scrolls, and that's a really, really important factor too. But then lastly, you might be thinking, well, you only have 1 healer. What if the cookies die? Yes, they can die. That is true, 100%. If they do, the insignia is going to heal our team. It's going to heal whoever's left from the cookies that die first. And so that's a really important and helpful factor too. Now, as you can also see, I only have Cotton at level 70 and Crunchy Chip at level 69. Crunchy Chip is in my borrowed area because I didn't want to spend all my jellies leveling just Crunchy Chip when I wanted to get some of my other cookies leveled up higher. So he will be level 70, but he's in the borrowed chamber right now as far as the Hall of Ancients. And I'll go over the toppings in a second, but one other important thing is that Crunchy Chip can receive all the buffs that all the other cookies are getting buffs from. And so the wolves that are coming out of Crunchy Chip, they can be stronger thanks to the buffs coming from the other cookies. So T-Knight gives buffs to specific cookies. So if they have the highest attack, they get an attack buff. If they have the highest crit, they get a crit buff. If they have the highest attack speed, they get a speed buff. And here's an important thing. Crunchy Chip Cookie has an inherent 10% higher crit than all other cookies currently. So that means the critical bonus is going to be going to Crunchy Chip. And that means him and the wolves are going to be having a higher inert crit bonus as soon as T-Knight activates. And so that's why I thought this team was very interesting, because you're basically setting up Crunchy Chip however you need to set him up and getting almost a 50% critical chance. Because if you look at the toppings that we have on here, we have 26.5%. That is with a substat focus of only 8.5%. So we would be at 13%. Now, if you think about that and you think, well, okay, is there a way to work on that a little bit more? Is there a way to work with that more? Well, so T-Knight's going to be adding the 12.5 critical percent. That's pushing it to 38 plus the half, 39. So 39%. Not 50. It's close. It's closer to 50 than it is to 0, of course. But that's still a good more than 1/3 chance to crit. And so dealing those critical strikes means that higher damage from Crunchy Chip. And you'll see that in the battles. I'm just going to take it in the battle soon. The other toppings, we got T-Knight with a full almond set. Huge focus of damage resistance here. High HP focus, high defense focus. Those are the 3 substats I try to get on T-Knight the most. I just want him to be an impenetrable wall so that he just pushes through until he can no longer. Snow Sugar, we're running a full cooldown. He's got a very long skill cooldown. And so for that reason, we only currently have 15% cooldown, but that's because we got an 18.2% damage resistance and some critical resistance too for the crit battles out there. If we can, we would get the cooldown to 25% and the damage resist to 30%. I'm not sure what other stat we would raise, maybe attack, maybe the crit resist. It kind of depends on the team flow in the battle, but at least those two stats are the two ones that I want to raise the most for the most productive of this team. Pumpkin Pie, only 32.2% damage resistance. The other two main stats I tried to focus on is the attack and either HP or defense, since those directly get transferred to Pom Pom when summoned. So if I could have my perfect stats here, I would have damage resistance maxed, I would have attack maxed, and I would have the defense maxed, since all of those are going to specifically translate to Pom Pom and how hard Pom Pom is hitting. And then, of course, Cotton with the guild battle setup, 23.7% cooldown. If I could do any better on Cotton, I would put a much higher damage resistance on Cotton. 1.8% is not very much. Being the back line, Cotton is more protected, of course, but having that ability to survive a little bit longer would be nice. In this specific scenario, though, because we have T-Knight and we want T-Knight to be last, it's actually okay that the damage resistance is not very high on Cotton. So for that reason, attack could be a bigger focus, and things like critical for better heals, better damage from Cotton as well. So we're going to go ahead and take it into battle and show you just what we get. And also notice, we only have one cookie at 70, one at 69. We're going to mostly be fighting level 70 cookies. But that's why I love this team, is that it does really good even against higher level cookies. So once it gets to a higher level, I'm sure it's going to be a very strong team. Now, there are going to be some that I'm just going to lose, and that's fine. We can explain why when the battle happens. Most of the time, it's going to be a level difference. But as you can see, we're still healing well with Cotton. Snow Sugar is the first to go down, but the Insignia heals the rest of our team. We've got a huge amount of bodies on the field. Crunchy Chip still pushing forward. Cotton still dealing heals. Lots of damage as well. T-Knight getting good amounts of skills and buffs on. And so here we're just down to only T-Knight. Likely that we're going to lose because of the Clotted Cream on their side and Wildberry, because they are specifically summoner counters. So, as you can see here, Wildberry, Clotted Cream did most amount of damage out of their team. That's because Wildberry, so many bodies are hitting Wildberry at the same time, that's an easy counter of Ricochet back on our team. Clotted Cream just is a pretty heavy T-Knight counter, and we didn't see that because Clotted Cream is hidden, so that's okay. That's a good understanding for you guys to see what is good counters against this team as well, because there are going to be ones that we're going to win. So we'll take it into this one. This looks like a speed team, maybe a partial T-Knight team. We'll see. They've got Caramel Arrow in the midpoint, so that means they have two frontliners. So they do have Wildberry, so technically that is going to be an advantage counter on their side. And they do have speed, which means that they should deal some good crits, which they do to our Pumpkin Pie and our Snow Sugar. But as you can see, our mass amount of bodies is just pushing through their line and taking that health bar pretty far down. So Crunchy Chip and Tina are the last ones left. We have broken through their front line. They did not have enough defensive power to hold us off. And then it's just Crunchy Chip left and the Wolves, since T-Knight did perish. But yet again, we are just dishing it out, and massive amount of power even against two healers. But it is coming down to the wire for sure. But we still end up winning it. And let's check their stats too. So if we go into the stats of the battle, they had everybody except Caramel Arrow at level 70. So they had the level advantage, 100% right there on all fronts. But we had the damage advantage. Crunchy Chip did a huge amount of damage on our team. Way more than T-Knight, way more than Snow Sugar, because Snow Sugar fainted too quickly. And even against the counter of Wildberry, we still persisted through. If you look at the healing, we only did 1.2 million of healing. So they definitely out-healed us by a large measure. But we still barreled through all of that at a lower level. And that's why I love this team, and I want to show you guys. Because when it's level 70, we're going to be battling toe-to-toe with some of these other comps. I mean, here's a 7,000 damage one. So technically here, Wildberry and Clotted, they have a heavy counter against us, but Sorbet, Summoner team, is usually the counter to Sorbet. So we'll see if we'll be able to push through here for that reason. Even though Sorbet can hit a lot of our front line, which there is a lot of front line, we should still deal quite a lot of damage. So main thing is seeing if we can get through this Wildberry. If we don't get through Wildberry, we're not getting through. That's just the main story. And it looks like we're not going to because T-Knight was taken down as well. And so likely they have all level 70s, so that is going to be one gap against us. But yet again, Sorbet, Clotted, Wildberry, all three of them together, you can see right there, that's some huge counters against us. Huge counters. Crunchy Chip still doing an amazing job, though. An absolute amazing unit of the team, and the actual damage that's persisting from Crunchy Chip, absolutely amazing. So this was not an easy video that I could show you guys that a team that would be winning every single time, because there are some high-level meta counters that are still popular, and so I wanted you to see that too, to see what teams would counter this team as well, because you can't beat every single team. Now here's a really good example. Frost Queen, Sea Fairy, Dark Cacao, very heavy damage burst team. A lot of damage potential from them, but they've only got one tank. So our massive amounts of bodies, we're just going to push right through. And you can see that. Their health bar taken down. If we go to their stats and their treasures and stuff, we look at that, they were a level 60 team except their cotton. So as you can see, same level playing field, even though they had crazy amounts of damage, and that's a meta team right there. Clotted, Sea Fairy, Frost Queen, that's a pretty meta team that I've seen. Crunchy Chip absolutely destroyed them. And our other team was assisting with all the buffs and the different things happening to help push Crunchy Chip even further. So this is a fun team that I really, really love running. I cannot wait to get them to level 70 and see how far I can push forward with them. I'd love to hear your feedback in the comments. What are your thoughts on this team? Is there a specific lineup you'd probably run instead? Maybe just a couple positional changes? But either way, I'd love to hear it in the comments. If you've got something to say, please let me know. Either way, thanks so much for stopping by, and have a wonderful day.